Hi, this is Karen Cubico, and today we're going to talk about some more examples and background information on xenoglossy. The word xenoglossy was first coined in 1905 by Charles Richet, who was a French physiologist. Xenoglossy is from the Greek words xeno for strange and glossia for tongue, so strange language. Basically, xenoglossy is when someone starts speaking in another language that wasn't their original language. It just kind of comes through, most of the time, through past life regression, and that's how the term has been used over time. But interestingly, when I was doing just a little bit of research, they have examples of xenoglossy in the Bible when people started talking in all kind of tongues at the Tower of Babel. And that's really kind of neat because that's a whole story that a lot of people know from the Bible. Xenoglossy is the ability to instantly understand, speak, write, communicate in a different language that is foreign to you, but then all of a sudden you have an understanding for it. It's really kind of cool. Sometimes it comes through when people are remembering a past life in bits and pieces. Sometimes people understand what those words are, sometimes they don't. It's just really the understanding that you're hearing it. Sometimes when you're remembering a past life, sometimes you hear other people speaking that language. Sometimes you actually start to speak some of the words that are brought up to you in that memory of a past life. But xenoglossy has been around long before 1905. They just happened to give a name to it at that time. And remember, hit that like button and subscribe. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Xenoglossy has been written about and talked about for centuries. Spontaneous use of a foreign language has been used like a miracle all through the Bible. But interestingly, when I was doing research, they said a lot of things that were written during the Middle Ages referred to speaking in another language as a way to know if somebody had some kind of possession, which I think is kind of funny because maybe they were actually having higher knowledge or some other kind of information come through to them. But since it was not understandable at that time, then it was determined that it would be something bad. I even remember regressing somebody to a past life where they were really ostracized and made fun of and tormented by their own siblings because they knew how to read, because they thought that was witchcraft. Just being able to read. Can you imagine? That's like ludicrous at this time because so many people are literate now, but back in the Middle Ages, they were not. There's even a gentleman named Dr. Ian Stevenson, who's now passed, but he did a ton of research specifically on reincarnation. Now, from his perspective, there were two types of xenoglossy. One where you could hear the language and maybe not understand it exactly, and a second one was where you could actually speak the language, had full understanding of it. It's like you were fluent in that specific language. So those are all really cool background information on xenoglossy, but I have a couple examples that I included in my book where I guess I didn't really realize that I was talking here and there in those languages, and I have some Parisian things here. It's one of my favorite things. It's based on me loving Paris and having a really loving lifetime there. But when I looked back through my book to see if I could find any examples of xenoglossy that I could share with you today, I came across a whole section that I felt like was great examples. Now, I do have to say, I do know a smidge of French. I am not fluent whatsoever. I know how to kind of order some wine and find the bathroom, maybe, if I maybe count a little bit still. It's been a hot minute since I've spoken some French. It's interesting how when I was looking through some of what I had written about this particular aspect of French, and remembering the language to use as an example today, I was really remembering some words that I didn't know. I'll read you some of it. So let me give you some background. It's chapter 15 of my book, Life is Just Another Class. In this chapter, this is about Annabelle Rosalina George's A Past Life Memory of Mine, and it's in France in 1795. The information that I have put here is just some recall of when I was younger, when I was pregnant, and then later, like I had important memories come through in that lifetime. It's generally how you work through a past life. But I had come to the end point where I recognized that my husband in that lifetime was cheating on me, which sucked. And we were having a heated argument about that. I fell down the steps, and my daughter, who I had remembered being pregnant with and being excited about, and her as a small child, and then again when she was, I don't know, I think 8 or 9 years old, she wasn't very old, she was standing at the top of the steps when I fell down the steps, but then saw me in spirit right after that occurred. And I had said these words to her, and I have to look at this because I couldn't tell you off the top of my head because these are not French words that I knew. I said to her, Je suis toujours, I don't even know if I can say it right actually, but I did at the time. I could hear me saying that. Je suis toujours là pour vous. And that means in English, I am always here for you. So she heard me say those words to her because I heard her say, Mama, Mama, as I'm falling down the steps. I hit my head and on the side of the stairwell, and it was not a good day. So, but what was really interesting, after I passed, I went right into the light, and right away I was still speaking in French. I had just come from France, so it makes sense, right? I remember saying to the people after I went through the light in the greeting room, I remember saying, bonjour, bonjour, and people were saying words back to me in French. Some of them said, bienvenue, bienvenue. And so they were so excited to see me. I was so excited to see them. It's like a party on the other side. What was really cool about that greeting room experience was that it was decorated in such lavish French Provincial kind of stuff. Everybody was dressed up in these fancy gowns and outfits. It was amazing. And I actually recall hearing the angels talk to me in French. And lots of the people in the greeting room spoke to me in French. All kinds of words were coming at me that I, in this human life, didn't comprehend. But when I was passing in that lifetime, I completely understood. And I remember having the conversation with my spirit guide and saying, why are they speaking to me all in French? And they're like, it's almost like a duh, you just were in France and speaking French, so why wouldn't they speak to you in French when you see them on the other side? It was kind of a funny moment. But it's really interesting how all that transpired and connected to this current lifetime that I'm having right now. And I still really love France and Paris and the food and the language. I just adore it. Since I was a small child, I've loved it. So it's just a fun thing. But fun example for Xenoglossy today. So stay to the end so you can listen to a guided meditation to help you remember a past life. Lots of love and light to you.